Life is so fragile. In each and every moment, it can be taken away from me or for anyone that is close to me. And we need to cherish that. Beyond death, there is something that lives forever, that the body will die, but the spirit that the person is will never die. And it showed me that in some way we could say that death doesn't exist, that there is something that persists beyond the life of the person, beyond the life of the body. I would really support anyone who is going through a tough time like that to start to listen to themselves, to really allow whatever is there to be, because it guides everyone. We have this in voice. You spoke about it. You feel guided. So it's the same for everyone. We're not more special than anybody else. It's just that often we have difficult moments or traumatic moments, and these dramas pushes us to think differently, see differently, and they also opened us up. It's like they create a breach in ourselves and a break in ourselves, and through that it's like more light or more love or more consciousness comes through, and we cannot live the other way. Actually, it's almost like I forgot how I was before, and I couldn't imagine go back to my life before, because that person, I would say, doesn't exist anymore, you know.
Welcome to the Awakening Entrepreneur Podcast. This show is for entrepreneurs that have chosen to define their life beyond the material. They have followed their soul on a hero's journey towards the mystery of the spiritual. I'm your host, Garrett Ng. Each episode will be learning from awakened entrepreneurs and spiritual thought leaders. They have broken through the mold of being ordinary to extraordinary, challenging our paradigm, shining light to the dark, giving hope when there is doubt. The moment of truth is upon us. It is time to transcend our world from fear to love. Are you ready? Let's go! Welcome to this week Awakening Entrepreneur Podcast. We got another exciting guest for you, and this one is I was talking to one of a group that I belong to, and I was saying that I have the urge to do this preferring type of diet or fasting, as you like to call it, or some people call it dry fasting, which means like no food, no water, but not just for the sake of the cleansing of your physical body, but I also wanted the cleanse of the mind as well. Similar to people that goes into a dark cave or dark room for 7 days, I wanted to detox from device, detox from the news, detox from even books that I enjoy, to see what that would like. And someone I looked up to yesterday, he asked me, Gary, why are you doing this? And it's a great question. Logically, I could give you a whole bunch of reasons and the benefits associated with it, but there was just a calling for me to do this. So when I reached out to the group, have anyone done this or know anything about this? My friend said, yeah, I think I know someone that just did it like earlier this year, and I'll connect you to her. And I already knew of this sister by name, but we haven't spoken before. And I found her journey is fascinating, that not only has she gone on the diet and the fasting, but she's also been on this spiritual path for quite some time. She's same age as me, same year of birth as me, but from a different part of the world, a different sex, and we're wearing the same color today. Her name is Amel Six, and a beautiful soul all the way from Belgium. And normally I don't read the bio as it's been typed out. I just like to say in my own words, but when I read it, I just found it so touching and so beautiful for some reason. So I'm just going to read it out to you. Amel is a 43-year-old Belgian woman whose life was completely changed in 2001 when her 13-month-old son died abruptly in 5 days. The devastating events opened her up to a whole new way of looking at and living life. She discovered soon after that she had a voice guiding her, like an inner GPS, to live effortlessly and in connection with her soul's purpose. She started to have awakening experiences and didn't even know what it was which led her to a deep spiritual journey and to teach about awakening to who we are, about living a life of inspiration instead of obligation, and to learn to be present in this moment to what is. She is also a founder of Movement of Life, a dance movement that invites you to listen to the natural movement of life within you and reconnect with the most essential parts of you. She also created Be and Move, a structured 8-week course to learn to live in presence, grounded, and listen in daily life. So, welcome, sister.
Thank you so much, Gary. I'm so happy to be there. Thank you for your invitation.
I really resonated with your journey that you may not have heard of what awakening is, or may not be much of a spiritual junkie prior to something happen to you. And suddenly it seems like your whole life this is what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea. And suddenly my life started to change. And I didn't have the sense that I could do any other choice, actually. It felt like this is what I was meant to live. And going through the emotions, for sure, the suffering that was there with the pain of losing my son. And in the same time, living in a way that I had never lived before, like facing fears, going through them, living differently, listening to this voice, having the sense that I am calling to something, like the word you exactly use for the fast. Like I feel my life has been about following callings, to go always deeper, or to do something, to connect with someone, to go somewhere. And and such a way to live, actually. It's so effortless. And even, you talk also about entrepreneurship. It's the same for my business. Everything has been about listening, not trying to push, not forcing any direction, but just really pray, in a way, being in prayer all the time and listen the direction that life wants me to take. It's been amazing.
Mel, tell me about what was life like prior to 2001. Also, like, what was the version of you like prior to your, I guess, the events that transpired?
Right. Well, there was pretty much like everyone lives it, which means I had a 9-to-5 job. I was working in a bank, responsible for all the credits, the loans we say in English. And I had a partner. We were going to build our house, and we had plenty of friends. We were just living life very simply. And I really thought that the purpose of life was that, actually, was, having a partner, getting married, having a child, getting a house, and having a job that you like. And so it was all about that. And it's true that in the months following my son dying, I started to think about, I felt like I needed to outgrow where I was at. I started to look for other jobs. I felt that the job I had was already opening me up to more possibilities. And it felt like there's even more to discover. And I started actually to look for other job and other ways of doing something. And it's strange, it never worked. And then after my son died, I did change my whole life in 3 months. I left his father, I left my job, I left the place where I was living. And before that, I was always scared, actually, to leave my hometown. I could not scared like to go somewhere, but I could never imagine living somewhere else. And I really didn't like traveling. And from then on, I started to travel so many times, like so much. And I lived in so many different places. And even now I'm back in Belgium, since lockdown. And because I traveled a lot before, and I'm so happy to be here, but I'm not in my hometown either. I'm in a place where I love to be. And it's just really beautiful, because I was also a very shy person. Not in my usual setting. In my family, friends, I was super extroverted. But in my unusual setting, or meeting new people, or these kind of things, I was very step back and more shy. And now I'm giving conferences, sometimes to thousands of people. This is just crazy. And, traveling is meeting new people all the time. So, it's been quite a change.
There are things that happen in our lives that we could not make sense of. And the example I use is often imagine an innocent baby that just dies. Like, how could you make sense to say, like, why did it happen? Why me? Why the innocent baby? Even if it happened to me, maybe I've done something wrong or whatever. And these days with the world, what's going on, there's a lot of fraction that's really polarized. And the stuff that's going on in the news, it seems like it just makes no sense. So I guess when those events happen, it tends to force us to look at life differently. Was that kind of like what happened to you?
Yeah, completely. I had this question, after my son died, I left the hospital and I had no idea who I was. I felt like my future was completely gone, that I didn't have a future. It's like with him dying, all my future plan, everything I thought I would live, everything just fell apart. And so I was completely lost. I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know what my life was going to be, because it was so difficult to imagine it without him at first. And then I kept asking myself the question regularly, like, what is it all about? Like, what is this life about? Why are we here? What does it mean? Like, is it really just about being born, going to school, finding a job, finding someone, getting married, having a baby, then having a house, and that's it? At some point you die. Isn't there anything else than that? And I think that question really drove my search to make sense, but also to find there is something more. And I kept saying there must be something more. There has to be something more than this, what I just mentioned. And that's what my awakening journey was about, actually finding really that we are so much more than our bodies, so much more than our thoughts, so much more than our emotions and feelings and sensation. And that even there's so much more than what we see in daily life, even though it's beautiful, there's even more. And that's been about discovering that. And I think that as you link it also to what we live today, I really think it's such an opportunity to start to wonder these questions, like, is it all there is? And what if there was another way to look at all that? What if there was another way to live life and to actually make so much more sense? Because sometimes even myself, I'm just like, this world has no sense today with everything that's going on. I'm like this makes no sense at all. And I think if I didn't have that background myself and that ground of peace or joy that is just there because, not for any reason, actually it's just there, I think it would be terrible actually to live these times now. So I'm very grateful that I had all these experiences to be able to go through that. I also sometimes want to act and do things because I just think, yeah, the way it's done makes no sense. So it's both. It's not just about having this ground of peace and, you're just blissful all the time and that's it. No, to me, there's also what makes no sense. I want to offer another possibility. If I see another possibility, I want to offer it. I want to say, well, let's be the change we want in the world. This is my favorite quote. And so it's really about what can I be that could make a difference in each and every moment.
So from someone that's been very grounded in the material world and that's not really on a spiritual path to suddenly like being on this awakening journey, was it a book, an event, a meditation, a moment or something, or maybe a sequence of events that suddenly like woke you up to a life beyond just the material?
Well, yeah, I had a beautiful relationship at some point, but which broke because there was also difficulties and we couldn't make it. And I was so hurt and such a pain. And we had planned to go to Quebec and maybe living there for a year. And I decided, well, I'm not going to wait for a man to live my life anymore. From now on, I'm living my dreams no matter what. And so I decided to go to Quebec for recovery, to travel and to face also my fears, maybe of traveling alone. And it was amazing. And during this time, I couldn't have planned that, but I was in downtown Montreal during a French movie festival. And I was sitting on a bench between two movies. And in that moment, at some point, everything stopped. Time stopped. The noise around stopped. And it was completely silent and everything was one. There wasn't Armel watching. I can explain from after, but the experience was actually total oneness of everything. And it was amazing. I felt home like never before. And I didn't know what it was back then. So I thought, "Oh, that must mean that I have to come and live in Quebec because this is where I feel home." So I traveled there a lot. And then finally, I went there for 1 year and had other experiences like that. Just, I kept following. Like I felt that I was called to go in the north, in Labrador. I felt called to go where there was almost no one, nothing, and where nature was not touched, actually. So I went to see the iceberg and walking in nature where everything is mostly kept, natural. And it was so profound for me to go there. And again, it was the same. During a night, we were going through an inlet on a boat, and I felt called to go on the upper bridge, and there were stars everywhere. And I went, wow. And I looked up, and I had the sense that all our ancestors, everyone that has ever been on Earth, was gathered in that moment, in that skies, in these stars that no one ever missed. There wasn't one missing. Everyone was there. And it was overwhelming because it felt like, again, oneness, but in a totally different way than the first time. And then I was looking at the sides of the inlet, and I would, wow, I have the sense that I can touch them, like I was everywhere. And I would have, wow, this is huge. And so these experiences kept happening without me doing anything except following my inner voice, really following the callings and following where I was to go. And then at some point, I was offered a book where it spoke about A Course in Miracles. And I started to be interested in it. And I learned about a course group in Belgium when I came back in Belgium. And I met, they invited a teacher who was coming to give a retreat. And with that, it's like a series of synchronicities that were amazing. Like I kept just following this voice. And by following it, I was led on an amazing journey. And so it was really profound, actually, to just trust and follow, listen, follow, and trust. And everything came to me. And only after, when I went to that spiritual center from the teacher, only then I started actually to really practice meditation. But it was only for deepening and more understanding of what I was going through, because before I didn't know anything about it. And it's true that today I still have meditation every day. I think I couldn't live a day without at least a moment where I sit silent. And meditation, to me, that's what it is. Back then, it was a lot about contemplating, who am I? This very, very deep question that doesn't need an intellectual answer, but just letting it, like drop, as if you were letting a drop of water coming from your heart or to your belly, and just let drop this question, like, who am I? And you let the experience and, the field, like consciousness, like everything, spirit, however you want to call it, or life, you let it answer. You don't look for an answer. And I was asking that question and practicing that deep, deep, deep inquiry every day for months. I actually stepped back from the world for 5 years almost. My only purpose became awakening to who I am when I started to discover what it was. I was like, this is what I have to be doing. This is the purpose of my life. And I started to live like that. And I didn't change since then. I couldn't even think about living differently, actually,
Wow.
without listening and without, being in connection with who we are in each and every moment.
So now looking back at what happened to your son and I guess the relationship going different ways, do you see it as a gift, or how do you see it?
Well, definitely I could say if he was alive, I would be so happy for sure. Like every mother, every parent would say that, this part it's obvious. And in the same time, I am so grateful to him and to life to have given me this experience, because I wouldn't be the woman I am today. I wouldn't cherish life the way I cherish it today. I wouldn't enjoy it. I wouldn't take every moment as it is. I wouldn't say I love you to my friends, my family, as I do today, because in this actually future stop, it showed me that life is so fragile. In each and every moment, it can be taken away from me or for anyone that is close to me. And we need to cherish that. We have no time for fighting, actually. And it's really about what does matter now in this moment, what truly matter. And therefore, it's trying to always make the best of everything. And so it's really my perspective in life. I wrote a book, actually, that was published in September, Daring to Live. It's in English, about my journey since my son, and really sharing that perspective. That my son also taught me that beyond death, there is something that lives forever, that the body will die, but the spirit that the person is will never die. And so I kept the connection with my son. And it showed me, that in some way we could say that death doesn't exist, that there is something that persists beyond the life of the person, beyond the life of the body. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and I would really support anyone who is going through a tough time like that to start to listen to themselves, to really allow whatever is there to be, because it guides everyone. I'm not special, you know, it's like we have this in voice. You spoke about it. You feel guided. So it's the same for everyone. We're not more special than anybody else. It's just that often we have difficult moments or traumatic moments, and these dramas pushes us. Actually, they push us to think differently, see differently, and they also opened us up. It's like they create a breach in ourselves, and a break in ourselves, and through that it's like more light or more love or more consciousness come through, and we cannot live the other way. Actually, it's like there isn't even a before, because it's almost, for me at least, that's how it is. It's almost like I forgot how I was before, and I couldn't imagine go back to my life before, because that person, I would say, doesn't exist anymore, you know.
Yeah, I used to be this achiever entrepreneur, and making money is the game and used to be fun, and I'm quite into it. And I was involved with the daily business. Now, if you ask me to step back into the daily grind of the business or the daily road I used to be, and I used to really enjoy it as well. But now it's like, man, it seems so difficult. And on the other hand, I used to like not like gardening at all. I used to like dislike it. And now it's like that seems to like be a big part of what I do each day as well. So interesting on how this awakening journey like takes us to a whole new direction and create a new path that we couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, completely. And you know, it's like I feel that in this moment, I decided to take a break from work during these 2 months. And I'm also looking at, I have the sense that there's something new for me, like another transition. And what you say really resonates, because now that the sun is coming back, you know, in Belgium, the spring is coming. I'm looking at my yard and I'm like, I want to garden, like I want to do that and that and that. So I really feel I also want to be more in material thing, but like, you know, working on wood or doing my yard or these kind of things. So it's kind of funny that we have these transitions, you know, that we can't foresee them, but when they come, they make so much sense, and we can see that and feel that there isn't any other way that I could do things actually.
So, Amel, for someone that's listening to your story right now, that they're resonating and they like what you say, but it's like they go to the theater, they go to whether it's Quebec or whether it's Sydney, whether it's Melbourne, whether it's LA, and I'm not feeling any oneness experiences. I've been meditating for quite some time and it's not doing anything. What would you recommend for them on how do they approach this awakening path? How do they get there?
Right, right. Well, I really think that there are several ways and there are several things that you can do actually. One is really listen to your spirit, because I feel that the more we listen to this inner voice, it's really the voice of wisdom. So it's calling us back home. Every time we listen, we are one step closer and we are connected with spirit, with who we are actually.
And how would
So,
you differentiate listening to the spirits to listening to your own thoughts?
right. Um, To me, it really depends, but sometimes it's just there is a certainty about what I am to do. Like it's very clear. It's like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I'm to do. Sometimes that's as clear as that. So then that's easy. Sometimes it can be fear, but you feel, yes, but this is still the direction I am to go. I have to go through this fear. I have to outgrow my comfort zone. And so it's about walking through that. Sometimes you can actually use your body. Connecting to your body is a great way to start to listen to this voice, because you're going to feel that maybe there is a softness in your heart. I like to say that sometimes to me it feels like God is caressing my heart with a feather, you know, like just something that, so good. Yes, that's the direction to go. Sometimes it can be joy also. It's like you feel joy. It's like, oh yeah, going that direction. So good for me. And it can also sometimes be that you feel a bit stressed, but still you feel, okay, I have to go. Like I have to go through that. But most likely, if you feel actually disconnected from yourself, that you start doubting, that it's very difficult, that you have belly pain, that you feel tired, that it's most likely it's actually about you not going or not doing the thing that you said. And sometimes excitement, like being so highly excited, is also not the spirit actually. So we have to actually learn to make mistakes. This is so important in the path of listening to who we are, because making mistakes will teach us how it functions within us, because we are all different. So, I can say how I am, and it is most likely like that. It's, in general, this is like that. But some people are very different. So some people will have other ways to connect with this voice, and it will like feel maybe differently than what I'm saying. But also lightness, a sense of lightness is also showing that this is the path, actually. This is the spirit speaking. So we all have to allow ourselves to make mistakes. This is very important. Otherwise, we start to put pressure on ourselves to make the right decision. And making the right decision will be a hindrance, actually, to really listen. So we have to learn to not define between right and wrong, and between the right decision or the wrong decision, making a right step or making a wrong step, but to learn from every step we take. Because every time that I will take a step, even though I made a mistake, and I feel it when I walk that path, I'm like, oh no, that wasn't the right direction. Then I know. Then I can come back on my experience and say, okay, what did I feel? How was it? And then I start to learn. And to me, I'm really about, self-education. And I think that we have so much wisdom that we can really learn from every experience we have, how we function. And that's the most important thing. To live consciously and closer to who we are in daily life, it will actually bring us into connection and alignment with self. So that's one way that is very important. Another thing is really questioning, as I was saying earlier, just questioning the sense of who I am, and not who I am as an individual, which is what is my purpose in life? Who am I as a man or as a woman? That's not what it is. So much vaster than that. It's when I strip all the identities I have, when I strip all the ideas I have about myself, about others, about the world, and I just come in this moment of silence, just right now. What's left? And I do that more and more, and I allow this silence to teach me of who I am. And for sure, I will not have any answer with words, but with experience, I will have one. It's called contemplation. The more we contemplate this who I am question, which is a very deep inquiry that is used in spiritual awakening, the deeper I will go within myself, and I will really deepen my practice of meditation. But it depends where we are, but there are step by step. If I don't meditate at all, meditating for 30 minutes a day, it's going to be hard. So it's also about being gentle with yourself, and also like maybe I do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at lunch, 5 minutes before going to bed, and I start to train myself. And then my mind become quieter and quieter, because the more I do just 5 minutes and I don't push myself, I actually start to really enjoy that and feel that there is something. And 5 minutes suddenly becomes not enough. It's like, oh no, I want more. I'm going to stay there. And then you feel that your mind is quieting. And one thing that is really good to quiet the mind is that often the attention is actually in the forefront when we meditate, or when, the thinking is there. So if we bring our attention at the back of the head, which is more the nervous system there, or even the primal brain, well, if I put it there, there will be far much less thoughts than usual. So if you come there and you allow yourself to sink deeper in the background of yourself more than in the forefront, you'll see that it will help you go deeper in meditation. And then you can just learn to be there. And when you are first at your back, you can also start to learn to go more even in the background. So as if there was a screen behind you, and you try to become, you just watch that there is even something that is beyond your body that is aware. And you start to stay there in this awareness. And then you start to see, what I am actually is, wow, it's beyond my body there, and it's unlimited. And when I touch there, it's there. And when I expand my awareness, like 1 meter on each side of myself, oh, I am there. And if I even go, every side of the country, and I just put myself there, and here I am too. And then we start to see that we are so expansive, and that who we are and what we are, so much beyond the body, the thoughts, beyond anything we have imagined. And so the more we connect to that, even in daily life, the more we're going to bring about this awareness. And then there might be oneness experiences. Not everybody live that. Not everybody has a lot of mystical experiences. I did. I don't know. That's my blueprint. It's not better than anything. But some people have just experienced a very, very deep peace, and they are very serene and quiet, but they don't have expressive joy. It seems that it is also my blueprint. So it's important to not try to be as anyone else who teaches, but to really trust our own experience, our calling, and the deepening as we connect more and more to the awareness that's the background of everything. And I have no doubt, like I really promise you, if you do that every day, it's going to deepen faster than you can imagine.
Yeah, I find myself at times, hey, like I'm doing a podcast. What if I reached more people? What if instead of like 100 or 1,000, I reached like 10,000, and like some of the top influencers, I'm reaching millions. But then a part of me is saying to me, well, Gary, this is perfect. At this stage, at this moment anyway, do I really want to have like thousands and thousands of comments and messages and different people contacting me? No, that's probably not what I want. And I'm glad that in some sense, someone is taking up that role, that I don't need to be that person. I could
Yeah.
just be me right now. But the
Yeah.
ego is like, I want more, I want better, because somehow that role seems to be more glamorous and more people liking that person is giving that person more love. So maybe I need to achieve and strive to be that. But lucky, I guess my consciousness like alert me, nah,
Mm.
that's not for you, at least not right now.
Yeah, that's very beautiful, Gary, to have this awareness and to share it also. I really appreciate your hope, openness and courage to say that, because not many people would dare to say that, actually. They would mostly hide it. And it's true, the ego wants always more and wants to hide also most of the time. So your spirit is actually calling you into truth, and it's really beautiful. Thank you for so much for sharing. I totally relate to you, to what you just said. And I feel, what is important is that if with this podcast or any other, you touch one person and that person's life is changed forever. Wow, this is just so beautiful.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like prior to jumping on this podcast, I was listening to Dave Asprey, founder of like Bulletproof, and he was talking about the benefits of fasting. And he's spitting out left, right, and center all this like medical terminology that sounds so intelligent. It's like, and it's not just him, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and a lot of people I look up to that are articulating the message so well. But a part of me knows that's not my space. That's
Yeah.
not my track to articulate in that way. I'm more like just being me, just being Gary, just being the average me or the people that relate to me. Because if everyone is like that, then everyone is may come to a conclusion, well, I'm not like that. I can't
Mhm.
relate to that. Yeah. So thank you for reminding me of this message. One of the things I want to touch on is that when I was going through the awakening journey, when I was transitioning as an entrepreneur to on this spiritual path, there wasn't many people I could relate to because I looked at, especially I was in marketing. I knew that the old ways I was doing it, even though it's my company was about bringing people happiness, success, and fun, but a lot of the ways is still like marketing is using fear to sell, and I'm helping businesses that may not be moving the world forward in terms of consciousness. So why are we doing these? So it made me question a lot of these things. And when we have to sack people, like how do we deal with these issues? And I saw a lot of the speakers that I looked up to, like Eckhart Tolle. They don't seem to be the person that's managing a team or people or running or actually recruiting clients or whatever. They've got publishers and other people dealing with these things. The one that I looked up to was Michael Singer because he actually ran a company of leading thousands of staff. So with you and your business, like when you going through this journey, how do you see yourself running business as opposed to how most people run their business? And maybe not saying that we are better than them, but even before we were awakened, how would you have ran the business before compared to how you run it now?
Right. The funny thing is that before I was an employee, so I didn't even think about that. And it's after my journey and my stepping back for 5 years that I started to be invited to teach. So I didn't do anything. I was sharing my experiences, my thoughts, poem also that I wrote, or songs that I sang with my ex-husband, everything about awakening. And it's through that that I started to be invited. I was living in the States by then for 5 years, and I started to be invited in France. Well, I also gave conferences or retreats in the States, in Canada, in Mexico, and I was living in Hawaii. So it's true that when I was living in Hawaii, I was holding a retreat center and also director of a Awakening Foundation. And it was all about listening. It was never about making money. It was never about success. It was never about trying to grow. It was always about listening to spirit or to life, and to be true to that, and to learn to actually practice that in each and every moment and be in service. It's like, on this journey, when I discovered what it was to be in service, I felt, oh, I was born for that. This is what I'm meant to be doing. And I was like, wow. And that gave meaning to my life. I felt like, wow, this is it. This is it. I remember I saw a video about Mother Teresa's death. And at the end of the video, it was said, who's going to be the next one? And I remember feeling, I can be. And I didn't know where it was coming, but it was the same thing, like that voice. And so when I discovered only a year later what it was to be in service and started to serve in the center, the spiritual center that I was in the States, I discovered, wow, yes, that's the answer. Not I'm going to become Mother Teresa, but she was in service to life. She was in service to Christ, to spirit, to who we are. And this is what I am meant to be doing in my life. And everything changed from then on, actually. And I live still like that. So I don't know how I would have lived it before. I don't even know if I would have had the courage to actually launch myself as an entrepreneur before. But since then, I'm just listening. At first, I was only following the invitations, but I had so many of them that the first year I was in France, I didn't have 2 weeks holiday on the whole year. Every weekend, I was giving retreats, I was giving talks, I was talking, I was invited everywhere. My YouTube's videos were seen like thousands of times.
And you
at
weren't
some
actively
point,
trying to push your message out there and looking at
nothing.
strategies for marketing.
No. I've never been like that. And at the beginning, I had a team with me. People wanted to work with me and to be with me. They were all volunteers, and we were traveling together. And they were doing that because they also wanted to grow and they wanted to support the message. And so we were traveling together at the beginning. It was just amazing. And the team was taking care of everything. There was someone who was doing the videos, the editing, putting it on YouTube. There was someone taking care of the website, someone taking care of the tour, the schedule and all that, someone taking care of the emails. And so it was really beautiful. I even had a friend who was actually playing music spontaneously, also receiving the music from spirit, and so playing like that, who was traveling with me and giving this beautiful music at the beginning of the talks. And then at some point that stopped. They all came back in their own direction, and I kept going by myself with someone who was assisting me with the emails and the schedules. And it lasted for maybe 2 years. And then I started to feel, wow, I need to step back a little. This is really a lot. And so I stepped back, I did far less, and I started to actually maybe structure a little bit more. I learned to say no also, because I had so many invitations. I needed also to take care of myself and my body also. So I've been doing that actually since 2014 at this pace. Before that, I was also doing it, but more in the States and far less, not as busy as I have been since 2014. And now it's still the same. And sometimes I don't have anybody working with me and I'm just trying to do my best. Sometimes my emails are very late and delayed and people need to wait a long time before having answer. And sometimes I just feel super available and I'm answering. So it depends. I'm
Just
just
going with
really
the flow.
listening and following the flow. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And I feel carried. Sometimes I have an energy that I'm like, I couldn't do it myself. Like, this is not possible. And I feel like everything is, everything opens up. People sign up, like 100 people for this, 100 people for that. I'm like, wow. And I'm not doing anything. Now I have a mailing list for sure. I have people following me on YouTube. I have, but even when I step back, I was like, okay, if I want to step back and people to actually also stop like being so demanding on invitation and stuff, I actually deleted my whole YouTube account back then. So all my videos that were like so known, like I deleted them because I thought I need a space for myself also. This is so important. And it also taught me like how difficult that is actually when you become a bit known, that, all the demand and expectations, they are on you. Wow, this is huge. And so this journey taught me so much. And it
Yeah.
also taught me how to teach, how to meet people. And then I also had experiences where more suffering came in my life, but I had another perspective to look at them, to live them. And everything that comes up since 6 years, every time it teach me to actually how to become an even better individual, an even better person, an even better teacher, and to actually be more human. And I feel that's what I gained the most, like how to be more compassionate and to be a real human, actually, a human being. I always say that, before I was human, now I'm a human being, because to me, there's a difference, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So from a typical day, like how would you describe where you get most joy from?
Hmm. Well, already when I get up, and that once I have my hot water, I sit in my couch and I just be for a while, which is meditation. But for me, meditation is really just about being, letting yourself be where you are. This is already just, this is really good.
Do you
Just
stare into nature, the backyard, or is there like what do you do after you get your cuppa?
well, really, I just sit closed eyes and I just take this moment with myself. Just that, like just be with myself and letting myself drop. So sometimes the meditation are shorter, sometimes they are longer, sometimes they go very, very, very deep. Sometimes there's a lot of thoughts, but still I can just rest and be there. So it depends, it's not always the same. But this moment is so important for me. I really wouldn't skip it, actually. Even if it's 5 minutes because I have meetings somewhere and all that, I wouldn't skip it. And then I just really go with the flow. Sometimes I do want to do emails, but it's not my favorite. So now I have a friend who is doing my emails, and I'm so grateful to her because, as you just said for yourself, I don't want to be in the details and daily things of the business, actually. I have no joy anymore. So now I'm really happy that I don't have to do them anymore. And so today I'm in a break. So I feel like I'm just a normal person living a normal life,
Yeah.
and taking some time off. So as it's sunny, I can just sit on my terrace and just rest and read a book, or maybe do yoga outside, or maybe go for a run. And I really take the time. To me, it's really about also following my own rhythm. We don't all have the same rhythm. And so being in the flow is also about what is my rhythm. So I know that the morning for me, I can't rush, except if I have no, even if I have actually an appointment in the morning, I will wake up early because I know that rushing is really not my thing. So I have to be allowed to take the time. So I will always make my day as much as I can like that. And yeah.
If you have to recommend a book for whatever the reason,
Mm.
what book would that be? Except for Daring to Live, I'm gonna put that in the show
Right,
notes.
yeah, for sure. I think that one teacher that I really loved, and I listened to him quite a lot back then when I was stepping back, it was Adyashanti. Adyashanti is a spiritual teacher in the States, and I feel his way of looking at life is so beautiful. He's as practical as spiritual. And to me, if spiritually is something, it has to be practical. That's why I also encourage people to listen to their inner voice, because spirituality has to teach me how to live daily life in a very simple and effortless way, where there is joy, where there is ease, where there is effortlessness. To me, that's all that it is about. And so I love the way he speaks.
How do you spell his name?
Adyashanti. Adyashanti. And I think his website is adyashanti.org. And
Spontaneous Awakening. Yeah. God, I found it.
And I think he has a book that is a small book, like a booklet, and that speaks about very practical awakenings. And I really think that this guy he has humor, he sometimes tells stories, and yeah, he's a real deal for me. That's clear.
Awesome. Maybe we'll try to get him on the podcast one day.
Oh, wow. That would be beautiful for sure.
Cool. So, tell me about the fasting you did.
Right.
Was it in January this year?
I actually did it between Christmas and January, and for a spiritual purpose, actually, because I really feel that the time between Christmas and New Year is a very deep, dark time where you are even more in connection with spirit. It's a time for me to be in prayer. It's a time to come in touch with yourself. It's an invitation to go inward. And so from the 25th, the Christmas day, to the 1st, I did 7-day fasting.
So when everyone is feasting, like...
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So before we go into the details of the fasting, do you feel any pressure that, hey, like, were you going to attend any of the social functions and seeing people eating and you not eating, or were you going to skip those events?
Well, I went on the 24th to my parents, and I told them that I was going to go back early because I started a fast the day before, and that also I wanted to pray before going to bed. So they kind of start to know me, after all these years. Sometimes I skip Christmas. Sometimes I don't do anything. I say, no, I'm not available. I want to be by myself. I just want to stay in prayer or stay in connection, however you call it. Prayer is meditation. Stay in connection with spirit. But this year I just felt, okay, no, I want to be with them. So I went with them, but my sister was there on the 25th, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not available because, I made my plan, and for me, that's very important. So I learned actually through all these years to not respond to the social pressure and to really listen to what is important for me. And I also love to be with my parents and my family. So if I feel the heart for that, I will go to that. Otherwise, I will really listen. And for New Year's, I actually held 24 hours online meditation retreat in silence. And so it was beautiful. People who attended were like, wow, we felt like every time we were coming into Zoom, we felt like we entered the chapel. It was like so beautiful. And to me, that was the best way to spend New Year's, so yeah, it's...
So you were saying that, like, you did it for this fasting for a spiritual reason. What was the spiritual reason? And do you do like fasting regularly before, or is it like one of the first time?
No, it wasn't the first time. I do that regularly. First, because I feel it feels so good for the body. I also already eat only twice a day for many years. Sometimes if I'm invited with friends, or sometimes I do eat 3 times, but it's rare, and I'm so used to that even if I eat in the evening, I don't have a good sleep and I don't necessarily feel good. So I would do it exceptionally because it's nice to be with friends or families in the evening if I'm invited. But most of the time I do already intermittent fasting on a daily basis. And I regularly do fasting for the body, just for it to rest and release.
And normally, are you vegetarian diet?
Not necessarily, I feel sometimes my body really asks for meat. And so when it is the case, I give it. And it's the same for me. Eating or anything else is about listening. And so it's not about, for me, having someone telling me how to do it. It's more about what is my body telling, because my body has a wisdom and it knows what it requires in order to be in shape and to be healthy. And so if I listen, I know that, it has the capacity to heal itself. And so this time it was really, I just want to have a time of big reset and connection, like just time with connection with spirit, just be in my mystical, I would call it, because when I was living in the spiritual center, I was quite mystical. And I love to not have to think about anything, let go of everything, and just, be actually, and allow whatever is there. And that was the purpose. I just wanted a big reset and just say, okay, let's see what happens then. And so I fasted, so dry fasting. I didn't eat, I didn't drink any water.
Have you done dry fasting prior?
Yes, I did it twice. I did it once 3 days, and twice 3 days actually.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But the second time I did it, I was like, I could have done more. I felt that 3 days, once I was in it, I could have done more. And this time it was the same thing. Like 5 days was really not difficult. The reason why I broke it and I started to drink, it's because the fifth day I had an event that was planned months ago and I had to do it. And I didn't want to cancel because I had taken the commitment. And therefore, it tired me a lot doing this event without eating and drinking for 5 days, tired my body so much that I really felt, oh shit, I need to drink. Actually, I need. And so I started for the 6 and the 7 days. I drank a little bit of water every day. And the funny thing is that the fast was more difficult when I started to drink than when I didn't drink, which is crazy. But I think it also depends on people. So it is about really listening to your body. Do 1 day, and if you feel good, do 2 days, and if you feel good and it feels right to you, do 3 days, and it still feels good, and you feel like, yeah, I can do one more, and then you do one more. And then I started to read. So is it okay if I do 5 days? So I started to read, and I saw on the fifth day, the kidneys and the lymph, that is the day where they cleanse the most. So I thought, oh, this is good. My body will also benefit so much of this. So that's also what I was doing. And I think it's really about listening, like for everything.
So
And if one day you start to feel, well, I feel that my body requires something else, then you drink a little bit of water and you see how it is.
So tell me about all the positive and the difficulties in doing. Like, was it really you felt a lot of hunger, and the positive that you get a lot of clarity or better connection with the higher consciousness?
Yeah, it gave me a lot of clarity. Yes, it did. It did. I was about to hire someone actually to work with me and to grow my business because I felt, wow, this is so much right now. I really can't do it by myself anymore. I really need someone. And actually, during that time, I started to have dream about the person. And I was like, what is it about? And my dreams, like, I was actually worried to hire him because I could see that in some ways he was sometimes like not really lying to me. I think that most people live like that, but for me this is not good. Like, I didn't even hire him and I could see where he was, like trafficking, I would say trafficking, quote unquote, right, the truth. And when I was asking him something, he always had a good reason to not have done it. And then I could see that that there were many things that I had asked, and he only was doing the things that he liked and what was nourishing and feeding his purpose. But the things that I was asking, he was not necessarily responding. So I was like, well, this is really not good. Like, I didn't even hire him. We're starting to see how it is. And so I really felt like, no, this is not the way. This is not the way. And then I really felt, I don't think I necessarily have to grow, actually. I think that if I am to grow, life will bring anyone who is to work with me. And I started to feel and think differently about it. And I also had decided already the several months before that normally I wanted to go to India in January and February this year, but you know what happened. We cannot travel, and so I decided, I think I really need these months that I had planned for India just for me. I need to take a break. I need to rest. I need to, just live differently and see, because since lockdown, I've not been traveling, and usually I'm traveling all the time. So to me, this is a big change, and I wanted to give myself the chance to live this transition and to live what I'm required, actually, because I feel there is a lot of transformation happening these last 2 months. So all that was becoming clearer and clear that this was what I had to do, and not thinking about growing my business right now. And
Was the hunger, was it much of an issue for you, or was it, it was no big deal?
No, really. When I was dry fasting, except maybe on the fourth day where I was a bit hungry at some point during in the afternoon, evening, all the other days I had no hunger, actually, because I was
Wow.
meditating mostly the whole day.
Wow.
And meditation feeds you. yeah, I feel like in my journey, there were a lot of time where I was almost not eating because I was meditating. And you know that we are then fed by spirit, by who we are. And yeah, I'm not saying that we should stop eating. That's not what I'm saying. And that if you meditate, you should not be hungry. That's not also what I'm saying. And if you are hungry and that you meditate, you're doing something wrong. No, that's not what I'm saying either. But with me, it happens a lot that when I meditate a lot, I'm not hungry a lot, actually. So for me, meditating most of the day or almost all day long, I didn't have hunger most of the days.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't really done much fasting. I've done a couple of juice fasting like for 5 days before, but
Right.
yeah, and it hasn't been much of a calling. But I've been eating like 1 to 1.5 meals a day for the last couple of weeks. Prior to that, we're
Right.
Chinese New Year, so it's like
Right.
non-stop eating. I think the big thing for me is the not eating and drinking since I haven't done it much before. But the secondary, like because of the social media, like I haven't spent as much time as you for a long period of just meditating or just
Mm.
being, even if I'm doing whatever. Like if I had my phone with me, and these days I'm a lot more aware, so I'm less addicted to it. But that's still like every so often or every few minutes, it'll pop up, hey, maybe you should check your phone. And even if
Mm.
I catches myself, that thought is always there. I
Mm.
think if I decide to say 7 days is going to be off, those thoughts would diminish and potential after a couple of days to eventually like mostly eradicate a lot of those thoughts. And if I'm
Right.
training myself, rather than should I not eat, to just say I'm not eating, those thoughts are, hey, maybe I should eat. What should I be having for dinner? And all these things like extra thoughts that come in, those will go away as well. So
Yeah.
with a lot of these like social media and extra thoughts that goes out, then I think it will open up a lot more space to be. I still have my duties to look after my kids, my wife, and
Mm.
cooking for them, like and seeing the food in front of me. So I don't know how that will go, but
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun. And like what you recommend, rather than saying that strictly like 7 days, it's just go with the flow. If
Yeah.
I set that as the goal, but if something changes along the way, then so be it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't push yourself, like no stress. And also, for the thought, it might be more thoughts, might be that you have more thoughts at the beginning, like they are crazy in your mind and they call you to eat. And you can even have images of your favorite dishes like coming to you. It's like, ugh. The first time, sometimes I had that, like it was really difficult. And it can also be that indeed you start to think about all the things you didn't do, and you say, oh shit, no, this is very important, I should do it, and to actually learn to let go of these. Because if indeed it is to be done, if you have set that time for yourself, the moment you're going to do them will be the perfect moment. Even if it's answer someone's email, and that you decided, I'm not answering email for 7 days or for 5 days or whatever, the moment you will write to them back, it will be exactly the moment they needed to receive your answer. So it's really, I feel it's also about trusting. If I let go, would everything be okay? Yes. And to keep reminding you, you don't have to pay attention to that thought. In this moment, everything is okay. Right now, you have to do nothing. And indeed, if you have to, you want to play with your kids or take care of your wife or do cooking for them or something like that, then you have a schedule and you just, hold on the schedule and you do that when they require it, for sure. But it's easy also, and it's also part of the plan. So my goddaughter was here and I cooked for her, and actually it was quite okay for I think the last day that I stopped. And so it's interesting to see also all these things that we have, all these thoughts that come to actually disturb us, because the mind will come and say, you should stop, like this is not good for you. You might have fear thought or death thoughts, like oh my god, what if I die doing that? Because this is not normal. Like everywhere we say that we cannot drink for 2 days, and now I'm doing 3 days, maybe. And so, start to have panic attack or something. You can also know this is not true. It's the same thing, actually, because if you were to have something to the body, you would know it at some point. But this is not the body that is feeling terrible. This is the mind that's saying, oh, maybe, are you sure? Is there something dangerous? Are you sure? You should not do that. So it's not the same thing. So just know that it might happen. The
Yeah,
thoughts
that's one of the
might
things
become
I look
crazy.
forward to is like you're right, like 30 minutes prior to our podcast, I was Googling how many days without water till before we dehydrate and die. And most of the websites suggest like 3 days. And I know that not only yourself, but my other friends have done it. Some of them have done it for 90 days, some of them have done it for like 9 weeks. So a
Yeah,
lot longer, and they're
yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
And if I look at people like Jesus that went on the fast for 40
40
days
days.
and
Yeah.
Buddha 49 days and Muhammad for similar duration, it's like 7 days is such a short time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
totally.
without going through that experience, that's still like, yeah, someone else did it. And I think for me to go through it, having a direct experience, it will have just be so different. And I
Mhm.
also agree with you that because I don't have the phone to distract me with, there'll be a lot more thoughts initially that comes up that I get a chance to study, I get a chance to entertain, I get a chance to just play around with it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. This is such a beautiful way to be with yourself and see the craziness of the mind also. And to also, because your energy is not used for anything else, it's like all the energy is really about the connection with spirit or with life or with God, however we want to call it, consciousness. And to me, this is so beautiful because there's so much light that's coming through when you do that. And people who do that even longer, exactly as you say, this is a way to reconnect with spirits, and some like stopped eating forever, and they use that really as a spiritual path for awakening, to go into fasting to in order to awaken. So
Mm,
I really think it is really a beautiful thing.
fantastic.
It's not for nothing that there was this 40 days for Jesus, and then there is also, every year there is the same time in all religion. There's something in it for sure.
Mm, fantastic. So,
Mm.
I guess any last words you want to share with our listeners? Any wisdom that you want to part with them,
Mm.
especially in today's climate, more and more people
Mm.
awakening. The world is going through so many interesting changes.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I want to say is trust your heart and trust who you are, and also trust life. Life got you actually, and you can really surrender to whatever is happening right now. There isn't any need to fight against. If you are, in the process of awakening and you have different experiences, and that maybe friends are changing, you don't like the things you liked before, and you feel quite different. It's the natural process. So most of the time we can be scared about what changes in us and therefore in our environment, but it's completely normal. Our energy is changing, our vibration is changing, and therefore it's like the world is rearranged around us, and it's really the natural process actually of awakening. So even what's going on right now, to me it is all about awakening. It's a global awakening, and that's why there is all this mess that's going on, that the darkness cannot be hidden anymore. And in a process of awakening, we come as much in contact with our lights than with our darkness. So don't try to skip the darkness, because it's part of the path to go to the light. So just be true. Each and every moment, you are exactly where you are to be. Yeah,
Awesome.
and life is taking care of us all the time, really.
Cool. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna direct people to find your book. Are there other
Oh,
places
thank
that
you.
they could find you? Are you on Facebook, social media?
Yeah, I am on Facebook at my name, Armel6. My private account is full. I cannot have anyone anymore, but there is a public page that is Armel6 Movement of Life. So it's the dance I created. And Instagram also, Armel Wake Up Be Alive, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And
And
I think that's it, maybe.
okay, well, I'm gonna put those on the
Oh, my
show
website,
notes
yeah.
and jump on those pages before she one day wakes up and she wants to delete them all.
Yeah. And
Uh,
there is YouTube channel. Most of it is in French, but there are some videos that are in English also there.
Do you share the similar message of awakening in France?
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
awesome.
completely. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time, sister, so much, and the way that you speak, the way that you carry yourself, like you living and breathing your own message on how to live life with peace, love, and joy. And I thank you so much. I'm so glad that we connected. I'll let you know how I go in my dry fast and in my spiritual connections. And and I'm sure one day we'll get to connect more in person.
Yeah, that would be beautiful. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm very happy that we met, Gary. And yeah, don't hesitate to connect with me and let me know how it went. I would love to.
Thank
So
you.
I'm
God
looking
bless.
forward to meet you. Yeah, God bless you too.